I think that was excessive on the part of Draymond Green and a bit hypocritical considering the kind of heat that he's exposed himself to. Now, I'm one of those individuals that never felt that Draymond Green should be suspended last year. He could be on my team any day. I love him. I love his game. I love his personality. I wouldn't change a thing about him. However, for what he said about Kelly Olynyk, let's keep in mind the guy's had 4 technical fouls. This is his 4th year in the NBA. This is his 3rd time in the playoffs. It's the first time he's ever advanced past the playoffs. Yes, he's only got 18 games on his resume in the postseason compared to the 71 Draymond Green has had in his career up to this point. But in the end, what it comes down to is that one incident against Kevin Love is the only thing that I know of that we can point to Kelly Olynyk and say, well, you know what, that was dirty, because I definitely believe that. Outside of that, that's not what I see from Kelly Olynyk, and if it's going to come from somebody else's mouth, it doesn't need to come from Draymond Green, because we've seen what Draymond Green, what extent he'll go to win basketball games. He wouldn't go that far like Olynyk did against Kevin Love, but Draymond Green is not the person to say that about him. That's wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Olynyk is a little dirty, and maybe Draymond is making the distinction without quite articulating it that dirty means that you do things that can injure a player. You know, the way the league was dirty to Blake Griffin several years ago when he was skywalking, and whenever he would go up, you know, he'd get hit, and he's 10 feet up in the air. You're like, that's actually dangerous. And maybe that's what Draymond's talking about. When he's kicking at people, it's not really dangerous. He's just giving them a little something to take with him. But the fact is, Draymond is also a dirty player. Olynyk, I think, is dirty. Even when he sets those technically clean plays, like really, hard screens and stuff, he's leaning into it. He's giving you a little something extra. He's doing what he can get away with, as is Draymond Green. So it's a bit hypocritical of Draymond to go at Kelly Olynyk the way he did. Of course, he said maybe he's not the most talented player in the world. Draymond is a better player. So maybe Draymond also thinks that somehow if you're good, if you're above a certain level and you're dirty, it's okay. But if you're not, it's not okay. Not a great look coming from Draymond Green, who, by the way, I do think should have been suspended in last year's playoffs, because when you know the next technical will cost you a game by the rules, they've called it on you, and you allow LeBron James to bait you like that, and you clearly kick him, well, what do you think's going to happen? That's a tech. You're going to get teed up, and you're going to get suspended. It's not like it was just that one play. It had built up to that point. So, and Draymond was like a fish on a hook. So if you're a player like that who's been so dirty that you can be baited into missing a finals game, which you and others, Stephen A., have credited have said that attributed to the Warriors actually losing that series, that it's tough to say that someone else is a dirty player.
You talked about how LeBron baited him. LeBron threw him to the ground. That's number one. Number two, in our system, let's say, for example, the court of law, mitigating circumstances come into play. Everything doesn't fall. I'm saying everything doesn't fall under the same penalty because you take the situation into consideration before deciding what direction to go in. If Draymond Green was just playing basketball and a play like that happened, I can understand it. But as I told the czar discipline for the NBA league office, Kiki Vandeweghe, the day he announced the suspension, I said, excuse me, this is my opinion. I completely disagree with your point. Why do I disagree with that? I said because you have to take into consideration the fact that the man was thrown on the floor and what have you. It's also the NBA Finals, and you guys shouldn't be using something like this to determine an outcome. That's what I believe.
That's powerful incentive for good behavior for all players going forward. LeBron James was not on his last chance. He didn't have a billion technicals. So when you put yourself in the situation that Draymond Green did through your behavior, then you know what? You might get baited like that. You still got to walk away from it.
Time out. I want to make sure. I'm looking at the producers of First Take right now, and I'm looking at you, Molly. Keep this tape with what Max Kellerman is saying, because I don't want to hear your mouth when I'm getting on dude about the weed and I'm telling you those are the rules and you telling me how it's a stupid rule and it shouldn't exist and it's wrong.
That's right.
So in other words, when a player gets thrown to the ground by the dude who steps over him and puts his his private parts on his forehead, I can't get up and shove him a little bit or something
Not
like
if you,
that.
not if you have 100 technicals already.
But the rules
No.
in the NBA can sit up there, and the NFL can sit up there and say explicitly,
Completely different.
you can't smoke the weed, and the guys ignore it, and they still use the weed.
Completely
and Max
different.
is standing up defending them because he hates the rule. So I can't hate the rule,
different.
but you
No.
can hate the rule.
Completely
right?
different. And in fact, I don't defend the
It's exactly
athletes
the same.
who got caught for
It's
the
exactly the
100th
same
time.
level of
What I do is I come out and say, even though I don't like the rule, the fact is, if a guy is still smoking weed after he's been caught 100 times, he has a problem.
You don't say that.
I do. I say he has a problem.
You say,
in fact,
you
I
complain
do.
all the time about the rule that the NFL
Yes.
has, how it's bogus, it shouldn't
Sure.
exist, it's wrong, I hate
That's
it,
right.
I wish they could get away with everything. But I say that about a finals, a championship on the line, and the guy got his sack on the top of his head, and the dude reacts to it, and all of a sudden, I'm wrong?
That's
wrong,
right.
but you're
because
right.
what
Really?
I always say about the weed issue is it's an absurd rule to begin with. But if you know that the next time you get caught, you'll get suspended, I acknowledge you have a problem. So whatever you think about how Draymond reacted and how he was provoked to act in that moment, he knows he has 100 strikes against him. And the
argument
next
is
time,
inconsistent.
it's completely consistent.
It's inconsistent
It's
with
the
what you
definition
say
of
about
consistent.
the NFL. It's not consistent,
Is this
but it's
opposite
okay.
day or something? What
It's
are you talking
far
about?
be it for you to admit it, but it's inconsistent.
Completely consistent.
All right, I'm
That's
gonna say this tape. I'm
You're
gonna say
gonna
this
get teed
tape.
up on that one.